Hello!
Bom dia!
And welcome to the Sunny Saudade Project.
I'm Charlotte.
And I'm Carlos.
And we're a couple that recently moved from the UK, from South East London to be precise, to the Algarve in Portugal. We make videos about travel and food and renovations.
We normally like to talk about our favourite dishes, hidden beaches, but after the last Wednesday, we thought we should do a video talking about the wildfires that have been going on in Portugal. So what has happened? Well, so in the whole of Europe, there has been a massive heat wave over the past week, and even the UK has had some really large temperatures of 40 degrees and 39 degrees, but especially in Portugal, Spain and France, there's been a massive rise of temperatures. And naturally, when there's a heat wave, all of a sudden fires are going to start, unfortunately.
So Portugal is obviously a country that does often have forest fires. It's not new to them. But last week, there were a very, very high amount of numbers throughout the country. In fact, in the north, some of them were just absolutely mad, and I think some of them are still going.
There's still one of the really big ones in the centre of Portugal that is still going on, and all of the local villages had to be evacuated, But we have a good fire department team in Portugal, and we're getting help from the United Nations as well to fight the fire.
However, we do want to say that the amount of fires that did occur is an unusual amount. Usually they are more spread out throughout the year, or the summer should I say, and it'll be 2 or 3 at a time. But what happened last week was like everyone was within an hour drive of a fire, basically.
There were there were 30 to 40 active fires last week, and in the Algarve, north of Portugal, centre of Portugal, and it was quite alarming. So we live in Horteira, which is just a town in the south of Portugal. On the 12th of July, late at night, one of the fires got started west side of Faro, near the University of the Algarve, at midnight, which is unusual because that's normally when you get the lower temperatures.
Fires are more rare here. They usually occur in the centre of Portugal, where it gets a lot hotter, but as we said, Europe's been experiencing some absolutely crazy temperatures. We are usually cooled down a bit by being near the sea and getting a lot of the Atlantic breeze or mist, which helps bring down the temperatures. However, because of these strong winds that we do get, this meant that on that particular night, the fire that did start in Faro was pushed very quickly west through Quinta do Lago and Valdelobo, and eventually towards Quarteira, where we live.
Just to clarify, we had no idea that there was a fire that had started in Faro and that it had moved near to this town. We only really discovered that there was a fire midday on the 13th, the following day, when smoke was falling outside near our windows.
So as we said, we didn't really notice until when we looked outside, and we thought it was going to be like a bright blue sort of sunny day like it usually is. That's when I looked at my phone, which has the weather app on it, and for the first time ever I'd seen smoke as the predicted weather. I had no idea what that was. We'd also hung our clothes out the window and noticed that sort of weird, almost like snow was like falling onto it, and we were a little confused.
So after all this happened, I decided to go and look on my phone and see what is going on, and I just typed in Faro fire or Algarve fire, and then I discovered there was a massive fire and there was news reports on it and everything. I eventually came across the international Portuguese website that tells you all of the fires that were going on in Portugal, and I was shocked. Okay, I took a screenshot. You can probably see it on the screen now. Charlotte's going to do some clever editing. So in this picture, the red ones are active, the blue ones are the ones that are being controlled, and the grey/dark blue are the ones that have been put out.
So at this point we had actually run out of food, and we thought we should probably go out now just in case it gets worse. And it was when we went out that we noticed like huge clouds of smoke very, very close to the town. We didn't realise how close it was. So we thought we'd probably head more towards the beach because that just seemed a bit more sensible at that time.
We eventually got to the end of the beach in Quarteira. There were crowds of people who were filming and who were looking at the fire, and you could actually see the smoke coming from a couple of. It was probably, I'd say
probably only a kilometre away. It wasn't far at all. I'll put up the video so you can see, but there's like a little ridge, and I don't think the video makes it look as close as it is, but it's just over at that little hill basically. That's where the fire was. So it was right on the outskirts of town. We also started noticing there were like helicopters, and one of the weirdest things we'd ever seen was a giant like water carrying helicopter going into the beach that we usually swim.
It was bizarre.
And pulling out the water to put out the fire. That was really close to us. That was a really, really strange experience.
According to the website that I was seeing, there were 3 of those helicopter firefighters doing the same thing. They were actually using the water from this resort that was next to it to fight the fire, which I thought was very clever.
Yeah, one of the golf courses and the sea basically was what they were using. I mean, thank God that it was so close to the sea because it meant that collecting water was quite easy.
And there were over 200 firefighters, according to this Portuguese website, hiding it, and considering that it had started from midnight the night before, and at this time it was probably 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And it was still going on.
As we said, there were quite strong winds that day. I think they were about 40 miles an hour, which meant that all it took was one little bit of ash to fly a few metres and a new fire would start. So that's how it travels so quickly. And that's why we really had no idea that there was a fire potentially coming towards us. So we spent a few hours there. It looked like the fire started to die down. We got our food and we headed back home thinking, we could see the sky again basically. So we sort of headed home thinking it was over. It did come back a bit during the middle of the night. It was so hot you want to open your windows, but if you open the windows, like the street was full of smoke.
So we didn't sleep well that evening. I then realised I had to go to Faro the next day just to sort out some bits with the bank. We got a bus ticket, and on the way you could actually see burnt pieces of land, all throughout the journey.
Yeah.
It was insane.
This is all the way from Faro through Almonsil, Quinta do Lago, Val de Lobel. It's like huge areas. It really spread really quickly, and we didn't realise that the day before they'd actually closed that road that we were travelling on just because it was so dangerous, and it can cross roads. It's really bizarre. So one thing that happened was whilst we were looking at the fire, people were still landing at Faro Airport, and obviously we live in a town where it's one of the tourist areas, so getting in, you'd land in the airport and then getting here is a total nightmare. Yeah, whilst we were driving there, some of it was still on fire, and I just couldn't really get my head around how much sort of devastation there was.
So fires are common in Portugal, which is a sad truth. It's a really hot country, and all it takes is a simple mistake. And we had this infamous fire in Monchique 2018, 2017, and over 70 houses burnt down in that fire. It was really tragic. So Charlotte isn't used to seeing fires, but I'm used to the idea of always being fires in Portugal, but I've never seen the actual damage and the devastation done. When we got to the end of Faro, we saw a hill that was on fire with some haystack. It's like leftover wood materials, but you could still see the fire that was going on.
So why did we want to talk about what happened? Obviously, these fires can be really, really scary, and it's not for us, you know, we're in some ways lucky. We only got a little bit of ash on our clothes and we're a bit scared for a day. There are people out there who've lost like a year's worth of crops or their houses, livestock, and it's becoming clear that some of these fires now have been started by people basically being idiots.
As we've mentioned, the fire in Faro started late at night, and so that is really suspicious because normally you don't get fires in the evening because the temperatures are a lot lower, you know, so hence why this all indicates that it was started by human beings.
We just want to say, like, if you do come here from abroad, just make sure that you are following the local rules. No fires, barbecues if you're in like wooded areas, and things like cigarettes or matches. Please just make sure you're disposing of them properly, because all it takes is one tiny bit of ash. Like, all the greenery around here is no longer green. It is like, it's so dry. There's no liquid left in the ground, so it just takes the tiniest spark to set everything off.
So if you're in Portugal and if you want to learn more about what's currently going on with the fires, if you go to fogos.pt, we'll leave a link in the description. It tracks and updates on a minute-based system, so it's easy to follow.
Also, if you are visiting here, it's a really handy website just to know, because I couldn't track or find out anything via English websites. It was only till Carlos typed in Portuguese that we realised there were fires. And so if you are in Portugal and you suspect there may be something nearby, it's really the only reliable way to know.
Now, as far as road closures go, you can check on Google Maps. They will sometimes have them there, but if not, if you just search for the nearest street or the highway that you're planning to go before you travel, it will tell you on Google. Okay, so if you type the name of the highway, search for it, it will tell you if it's open or closed.
We did hear some stories of people not evacuating when they were told to do so. I know you may be on your holidays, whatever, but make sure that if you're told to leave, please leave, because as we said, these things clearly can move very quickly, and the local firemen probably know more about it than you do.
Guys, don't let this put you off coming on holiday to Portugal. The fires are rare. They normally happen, you know, August when it's peak heat, but this year it's come a lot sooner, so don't let this put you off. As long as you follow the rules and regulations, you should be okay. And obviously, if there is a fire, a big one near to where you are going to know about it. Okay.
Anyway, this is just a short video just addressing, because I know some people heard about the fire and partly want to let you know that we're fine, and just to help out people in the future.
In happier news, we are going to be going to Silves tomorrow, so we're going to be doing some filming there. So I hope you guys are excited.
Yeah, if you are into Portuguese sort of travel or wanting to come on holiday, see some more different spots, we'll be filming some of that tomorrow. Silves is beautiful, and we'll be back to our normal sort of content.
If you want to follow our channel, just click the subscribe button and we will keep you updated.
Thanks for watching, and ciao zinho.
Ciao zinho.